on? What's going on, guys? How are you guys doing today? We got a very special episode for you of Weezy's super special Balls Deep Breakdown. I'm Lou Betya. Uncle Weezy is here. Hope you guys are doing all right. Weezy is, of course, the star of the show, knows how to break down fights, but I think there's somebody who's better at breaking them down than me today.
Yeah, we got a much better guest for you guys today. You get to see us every week, but today we're going to be bringing in the one, the only Cody Brundage to talk about this fight that he's got coming up on Saturday, UFC Vegas 58 against Tresean Gore. How you doing today, Cody?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's our pleasure. We know that you're real busy during fight week, so we're going to, get you through this as quick as we possibly can and break down this fight. And hopefully you can educate our audience about how you're going to come out the other side with a win here on Saturday.
Yes, sir. Less busy than you think, probably, right?
Dude, well, I know you're probably cutting weight right now, and training for this fight, so I'm sure you got a lot on your plate.
Yeah, we just kind of got a little workout in at the PI, so we're kind of done for the day. I'll start my weight cut tomorrow. I don't have too much, so it won't be too bad. Usually my weight comes off pretty easy, so I don't have to focus too hard on that. But other than that, you're just sitting in the hotel, time's barely crawling by, you're getting anxious. So I'll be excited when fight night gets here for sure.
Absolutely, man. Well, what I always do when I break down these fights is I go through a lot of the statistics that I keep on the spreadsheets that I create for everybody. But instead of having that spreadsheet up on the screen, we're obviously just going to have our three faces up here. But I always start with tail of the tape, and then we go through the pro experience, the UFC experience, finish stats, striking stats, offense and defense, grappling stats, offense and defense, and the strength of schedule that you've faced thus far in your career. So we start off at the tail of the tape. And I know that you've fought at the UFC level at 185 pounds and 205 pounds. And you guys are both listed at 6 feet tall. Tresean Gore is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's a switch stance fighter, while I have you listed as an orthodox fighter. So you're both 28 years old, though. So big time. This is a serious prospect fight. And you got that 3-inch reach disadvantage to make up. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between 205 and 185 at the UFC level, and how you think you're going to match up physically with Tresean in this matchup? Yeah,
I think there's a huge difference. My fight at 205 was against William Knight, so I don't maybe have the best litmus for the difference, because he might be the biggest 205er on the roster. I think he fought heavyweight recently and he weighed 250. So obviously not all 205ers like that, but it's a big difference. And I'll say, when I fought William Knight, I didn't feel small. I mean, I weighed in 204 for that fight, but I didn't feel weak. I didn't feel outmanned at that weight. I think if you go watch that fight, yes, it's a first round loss for me, but if you go watch the fight, it was a 3-minute fight. I was dominating 2 minutes and 50 seconds of it, and then, got put in a bad position, which is the name of the game. But I felt like I was doing very well in that fight. Obviously 85 is a much more comfortable weight for me. I could make 70. Wow. It's more of a decision not to. I feel like my abilities and the things that I bring to the table are better served at 85, in terms of, I feel like I have good cardio. I feel like I have good pace. I feel like my speed I'm quick for 185. And then obviously the lower in weight you go, the faster people are, the better the pace is, the better the cardio is. So I don't really think it's advantageous for me to go down. And like I said, I don't feel outmanned. I don't feel like I'm getting out strength. When I was in college, I was wrestling 197 in heavyweight. So I've always kind of been dealing with bigger bodies and bigger guys. And as far as the 3-inch reach advantage for him, I don't really see him. He doesn't utilize his reach advantage too much. He doesn't fight a style of fight like a Izzy or a guy that's super long. Maybe he'll change it up for this fight, but he doesn't fight like a super long fighter. His best strike is his left hook, which is a mid-range strike. So, the reach advantage doesn't really matter there. But yeah, we'll see. I just don't think it's going to play that big of a deal. We're similar in body type. I know on the regional scene, he's fought at 205 before. He's talked about going up before. I'm not going to go up. I don't have the body for that. I train with top 15 205ers every day, and guys like Dustin Jacoby and Anthony Smith, and those guys are huge. They're just bigger frames and bigger bodies, and I'm not suited for that weight class. So, yeah, I feel good at 85. I think it'll be good.
Absolutely. And one thing I wanted to ask an actual UFC fighter, it's something that's bugged me for a long time about breaking down fights, is it seems like they actually measure your reach, but they don't actually measure your height. Is that correct? Do you give them your height and you could basically say you're however tall you want to be?
So I feel like sometimes for me, I got a strict measurement on my height. Some guys I know have like measured in their shoes. Some guys have just written down what they want. So I think it just depends on the day. We'll see at face-offs on Friday, but I think I'm a little bit taller than him. I know we're listed as the same height, but I think he's a little shorter than me. We'll see. But yeah, I think those numbers are fudged a little bit. If you go look at some of the heights too of like
look at Kaio and Armin.
Career.
Kaio and Armin that I had a picture where they had their heights, and it's like,
yeah, there's guys sometimes too, like one fight they're 5'9", the next fight they're 5'11", the next fight they're 5'8". You know, they don't have a consistent height. So yeah, it's definitely an inconsistency. For me, I know I was on Contender and they did strict measurements. I wish they wouldn't. I would have lied. I said I was 6'1" or something, but
okay, all right. So they did actually measure you for the Contender Series. That's really interesting because
it's whatever your license says. That's
yeah. Oh, like, I'm 6'4", 230.
Nice. There you go.
like I'm 5'9" on my license, but like if I got pulled over, they're gonna be like, "You should go to fucking jail, dude." Like, yeah, 5'9", bro.
That's funny.
Awesome, man. Well, let's talk a little bit about pro experience here because you are not the most experienced guy in the UFC, but in this particular case, man, you're going to be fighting somebody that has a lot less experience than you. You've got 9 pro fights and Tresean only has 4. I have you down with 72.5 minutes of cage time. For Tresean, it's about 37. And but Tresean has been fighting for about a year longer than you. So Tresean only 4 pro fights in 4 years. So he hasn't been very active. While you, on the other hand, a 3-year and 2-month-long pro career, and you've got 9 professional fights, 3 of them at the UFC level. But the one thing I was going to ask you is because, yeah, I definitely got to give you the experience advantage here, but your wife was in the Ultimate Fighter house, and Tresean Gore just came out of that house. And, you know, and it kind of feels like that's a crash course in MMA, and that you get a lot of experience and do a lot of growing up in that Ultimate Fighter house. And I'm sure Amanda could speak to that as well. But, you know, how important is it to you, Cody, that, you know, you've got more fights than this guy, you've got more minutes in the cage than this guy, and that over your 3-year career, you're fighting 3 times a year while he's fighting about once a year?
I think it's important. I think experience is always important. I do think, you know, the numbers are obviously a little skewed. He had 2 fights in the house, and he performed very well. I think the house is a little different in terms of like you're living with those guys. So there's a different comfortability when you're fighting people you're around all the time and you have to be friendly with, and you're buddies with, and you've trained with them, and you kind of know what to expect or what you're looking for in terms of like how the fight's going to go. Whereas like with me, he has no idea. We're not buddies, you know, we're not friends. And not that there's any animosity, but there's an uncomfortability. There's a feeling out process. There's so many different things. And the nerves are probably a little different. I don't know if they're heightened in the tough house or in the just normal fights, but you know, it's just different. But he's had quite a bit of fights. You know, I think it plays a role, but it's not that big a role. Like, I've had to deal with these nerves. Like you said, I've been a pro a very short amount of time. I've made it very far in a short amount of time. And I've dealt with the nerves pretty consistently every 3 months. And, you know, that's something you have to work at, just like your jab or your wrestling or anything in fighting you have to work at. And dealing with the nerves and the stresses of fighting takes practice. So I feel like I've got a lot of practice. I've had a little bit more practice than him, which is a benefit for me. But I had my eye on all those tough guys because I feel like we're all at similar points in our career. I could fight any of those guys because it just makes sense for those matchups. So while I feel like I have a experience advantage, I don't think it's that huge or plays that big of a role since it's so close, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and that's, you know, when we break down these fights, like us on the other side as gamblers, you know, we're trying to find, you know, where that line is sitting and then look at the data that we have available to us. Because oftentimes, you know, fighters will say certain things and indicate that they're going to do one thing when they really want to do something else. But in my opinion, sometimes the most honest representation of the fighter is what they've done in the cage, you know, and we see with you that you're finishing fights, Cody. I mean, you got 7 wins and 6 of them are finishes. And it's not like you're just knocking dudes out or just submitting guys. You know, you've got 3 knockouts and 3 submissions, you know, so Can you talk to us a little bit about like the style of fighting that brings those finishes, and do you try to force them, or do they kind of just come naturally with the style that you're learning to push now that you've been at Factory X here for a couple years and you've done a ton of growing up in that time?
Yeah, I think my style, I feel like I have a good pace. I feel like I've really focused on my cardio, and I feel like pace helps you find finishes, right? Like if everyone always is like the biggest fear people have is getting tired, but I don't think that's true, because you can't go into a fight and expect to not get tired. You're going to get tired. That should be the expectation. What people are scared of is being tired and their opponent being less tired, right? So I'm always trying to be the less tired guy. I think that's how you find finishes. Yeah, like you said, I've only been at Factory X for 2 years. And before that, I was kind of just winging it with my buddies and my wife, trying to figure it out. I didn't have a ton of MMA skills when I came to Factory X. And I got into the UFC, and I found a way to win on performances that weren't that great, found a way to get finishes on performances that weren't that impressive. And to me, like, obviously I'm not happy with those performances. I'm happy with the results. I'm happy with the bonuses. I'm happy with all that. But I feel like I can perform so much better. And when I do, people are going to be like, holy shit, that's crazy. This guy's made huge leaps and bounds, when really I just was putting it together. I look to finish fights. I feel like my striking is super underrated. I feel like people think I'm just a wrestler, which is okay. That's what I've shown in my fights, that I have good grappling. So that's a compliment in itself. But I feel like I have good striking. I go with great strikers every day. I'm learning a ton in that field, Obviously I wrestled my whole life, so that comes a little more naturally to me. But I feel well-rounded. I feel like I said, I feel like now I'm just to the point where like, oh, I'm UFC ready. And I was able to get wins in the UFC, or a win in the UFC before I was UFC ready, just by being gritty and tough and having pace. Whether it was getting my ass beat or not, that was pace. The reason I won that fight was because he gassed himself out. I had a good chin. I was able to make him miss most of those shots, and then I capitalized when he made a mistake. That's the fight game. So yeah, I just think my pace and my grit, and I'm continuing to evolve. I think that maybe surprises people, and then it allows me to find finishes.
I actually was super impressed, even though it was in a loss. I was really impressed with the cardio in the third round against Maximov, and that was short. How many days short notice was that fight?
48 hours we took.
I mean, against the guy who pushes a crazy pace like Maximov does, you look great in the third round. I mean, we talk about dudes all the time that weaponize their cardio, like Weezy's guy is Pierce, Darren Elkin, Darren Elkins, like Billy Q, like these are like my kind of guys, like love the roof. We're like that awesome cardio in the third. Like it's not just good for wins, like you become a fan favorite, man. Like people, like especially like in this community, like we love that because it means you fight for our money, and like not that you care about our money, but like we love the guys that like go out there in the third. They're like, I'm not milking it. Like let's go, gotta get it done.
Yeah,
like we respect that immensely. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, so you talked about the striking. So let's talk about the striking in this fight, because when people are wiki capping this fight, when people are talking about it on Twitter, the mantra is that Gore is the better striker, Brundage is the better grappler here. But I'm seeing some things in Gore's striking that I'm not particularly thrilled with here. In particular in the Battle fight, he got out volumed. Battle was throwing about 13 significant strike attempts per minute, and Trey was throwing just a little over 6. And what I'm seeing from Trey is that he's either offensive or defense, and there's no in between, and there's no link between the two. He either goes first or you go first, and he plays defense. So, I see Trey being a little bit low volume, but I see him throwing with a ton of power. And like you said, that's something you see a lot in this division. But talk to us about why you're the better striker here, because you've been training at Factory X, and Josh Fremd was supposed to have this fight, and you were training with him prior to Fremd did he get injured? What happened there?
Yeah, he got injured, broke his orbital. So he just wasn't, he's back now, but he just wasn't able to, have a consistent camp to show up for the fight.
Right. Okay. So, you've been helping Josh get ready for Trey before he got injured. And now you're the one that's stepping in for him. Talk to us about why Cody Brundage can win minutes on the feet here and potentially win moments and not just out.
I just think like I said, I think it comes down to a lot of pace. And I think, people confuse MMA for kickboxing or boxing. And, the wrestling sets up the striking, and the striking sets up the wrestling. And it's just a compatible game. And the blend is huge. And if you're not blending, then, yeah, maybe if it was a kickboxing fight, he has way better striking. Maybe. You know, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying maybe if it's a boxing fight, he has better boxing, but it's not. It's an MMA fight. And he has to worry about so many things with me that I don't necessarily feel like I need to worry about as much with him. You know, he could come in there tomorrow, or Saturday, and make me look silly and start double legging me and doing all kinds of crazy shit that we've never seen him do before. But based off what we've seen, you know, I expected more volume. I expect more volume. I expect more kicks. I expect him to try to keep a better pace, because all he's heard since his last fight is if you don't have more volume, you're going to lose. And that's why he lost that fight. You know, so I expect him to come in and do some different things. He's super young in his career, and that usually tends to lead to growth, and losses especially lead to growth a lot. So I'm sure he's going to be a little bit different. I'm sure he's going to do some things that are different. But I just think with me, you have to worry about the wrestling, and the wrestling sets up the hands and the kicks set up the wrestling, and vice versa. And I think that's a hard puzzle to solve over 15 minutes when someone is pushing a pace that you're not necessarily comfortable with.
And that's really what it's about at the end of the day. The best fighters are the ones who blend the martial arts together. And, you know, I was talking about how you have to have your striking set up your wrestling, because if you're just taking shots from way out, I mean, you're going to get clipped, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get your shots stuffed. But, you know, you're learning now, being at Factory X and training with some trained killers like Smitty, you know, like Fremd, and, you know, under Mark Montoya, you know, you're starting to learn how to use your elbows and your strikes to enter on those shots, and then also push that pace. And it just doesn't look like Gore is going to be comfortable fighting at that pace, because when you let him have his way, when you let him lead the dance, it's a slow dance. And, you know, I don't see you going out and letting him do that. So let's talk about that grappling, because, you know, you've got that wrestling background. You wrestled Division II at Newberry College, if I remember correctly.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you've got that background. And, you know, I think I always talk about the transition from high-level wrestling to high-level MMA, and how you have to really be conscious about your gas tank, because your gas tank is kind of set up in college to wrestle for 7 minutes. Now you got to fight for 15, and you can't wrestle at the same pace and be able to do it for a full 15 minutes like you did in college. So you have to learn how to blend everything together. So the grappling is going to be such a key part of this fight.
Yeah, I agree. You know, and I don't think Tresean's grappling is bad. He's a brown belt. He's shown in his fights he has good takedown defense. I don't think he's fought anyone on my level of wrestling. I think he knows that. I don't think that's a secret. You know, if you go look at his strength of schedule, look at my strength of schedule, I'm the best wrestler he's fought. That's a fact. You know, and then I just feel like it's hard to prepare for that. If you're not getting that look in the gym every day, it's hard to prepare for that. And, you know, maybe he will be prepared, but like I said, we're going to find out, man. I'm going to push it. We're going to see where his wrestling's at, because that's definitely part of the game plan. You know, we're going to wrestle, we're going to strike, but it's going to be a mixed martial arts fight. It's not going to be a kickboxing match. And like, I feel like when I watch film on everyone he fights, they're so, whether it was that Ryder kid, Gilbert, even Brian in the win, like everyone just accepts being on the back foot. Everyone just accepts being on the cage. And, you know, even like in that Dolce fight, which Dolce isn't, you know, he's explosive, he's powerful, he wants to come forward as well. Like, I feel like I'm going to meet you in the middle. Like, we'll meet in the middle and we can wrestle. I can wrestle there. I can strike there, but I'm not going to just accept being on the back foot. And I think to your point, you know, I feel like that's a harder fight for him. He's literally bullied everyone he's fought so far, whether it's the regional scene, whether it's contender or tough or the UFC. He's put them all on the back foot. And I just don't believe he's going to be able to do that with me.
Yeah. And pressure is so important.
Hale,
yeah.
Even Robert Hale, who like one of my favorite guys that's not in the UFC, like he did it to Robert Hale too, who's like coming into his own right now is like an animal, man. Like,
oh yeah, I know Robert. I've been on a couple cards with him actually. He's a super solid fighter.
We'll be seeing him one day, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and here in the, you know, obviously the strength of schedule, you know, we're looking at the names on Tresean Gore's resume: Prince Ellerby, L.J. Jones, Christian Eccles, and then it's, you know, Ryder in the house, and it was the Urbina fight in the house, and then Brian Battle. While, you know, you just got out of there with Dolce. And I mean, that was a really impressive performance, because Dalcha being a judo guy, you don't want to be real close to judo guys. They can throw you around. And I mean, you look at Dalcha as just a very intimidating human being to be in that cage with. I mean, that scar on his leg. I mean, it looks like he was almost maimed as a child with that thing. And then, he's got that vicious judo. I grew up doing judo. So I can see when some of these guys have just got those great hips and that ability to be able to move their opponents when their hips are close to them. But the way that you locked up that guillotine showed that you could persevere and perform well when there is absolute chaos going on. I felt like you were looking for that guillotine 4 seconds before you landed it. And can you talk about how the hell it is that you can make good decisions when you got a dude like Dalcha Lungiambula in your face with your back up against the cage swinging hammers at you? How do you stay calm in those moments and stay a step ahead and be able to pull out a submission like that?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm really even that calm. I feel like it's about, it's tough. You're like, shit, this doesn't look good. This is bad. All these thoughts are going through your head, but it's just about being gritty, and I feel like that goes such a long way. You talk about guys that can get it done in the third and that push a pace in the third. A lot of those guys have grit, they're not easy to put away. They're tough to put away. It's going to be a dogfight, and I want to have that reputation. I got to keep putting fights together and keep having performances where I'm gritty through tough shit. But if you're gritty, it just goes such a long way, man. You see most of these underdogs that are beating people, it's because of their grit. It's because they're not going to quit. They're not going to go away easy. They get hurt, they come back, and then the guy who's supposed to win, the guy who has the flashy striking and the knockout power isn't able to put you away, and they're like, shit, this hasn't happened before. I haven't been in this situation before. This guy won't go away. And I've been that guy. I've been there on the regional scene. You know what I mean? Brian Battle, as an amateur, me and Brian Battle fought, and that was the case. Like, I hurt him, rocked him multiple times, had him in mount for a whole round, and he just would not go away and was able to come back and beat me by split decision. Like, I just feel like grit goes such a long way, and into, like you said, persevering, finding ways to win, and even decision making, because my coach always says, I feel like Coach Mark is the best in the game. He's got so much.
Oh.
He always says all the fight is moments, right? Like small moments. And if I lose 10 moments, there's going to be 50 more in the fight. So if I just go win those 50, then the 10 I lost don't matter. Then I'm finding a way to win. And I feel like that's kind of like my mentality when I'm in there, is if I lose a moment, just go, I'll get the moment back. I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? So, I just think being gritty. I think being gritty is super important.
Can I ask you a question about the battle fight? Was Sal D'Amato one of the judges for that?
No, but
no, he wasn't.
Kinda.
All right.
But
I'm just trying to see if we have a valid protest here for that one.
No, yeah. That was a crazy fight. That's what I think when you look at strength of schedule too. Like, I wasn't like, and obviously Tresean fought good people. Robert Harrell's really good. He fights at 55 now, but he's really good. You know what I mean? Like, he's not an 85er. He's fought Gilbert Urbina, who's solid, I think. That guy's only other loss is Sean Brady. I'm not knocking his strength of schedule, but as an amateur, I was fighting Brian Battle. I was fighting Dalton Rosta. Like, I have some real killers on my resume that I've fought. I've never looked for the easy fights, and especially like in my UFC career. I fought William Knight up a weight class. I fought Nick Maximov on 48 hours notice. I fought Dalcha coming off a loss. Like, I just think I'm game. I think I'm down to fight anyone. Like I said, I'm getting way better every fight, and I think my strength of schedule is much more difficult than his strength of schedule. Not that like, what did DC say? He's like, just because you train or just because you beat somebody that I train with doesn't mean you beat me, right? So like, it's not necessarily that, but I just feel like I fought much tougher guys. I've been in way worse situations than he has. I think that goes a long way. Like, when he fought Brian Battle, he wasn't really in any bad situations. He was getting out-volumed. He was getting picked apart, but he wasn't ever hurt. He was never rocked. He was never in a bad position. Like, he's never had to face any adversity. So I'm going to try to give him some adversity, and we'll see how he responds.
Yeah, man. And when you had adversity, against Dalcha, you wound up locking up a submission out of nowhere there. And, so that just does go to show that it comes down to wanting it more than the other guys sometimes. So we know that we've taken up a lot of your time already. Cody, can you just leave us with how you see this fight going?
I think it's going to be a really good fight, man. I think it's going to be competitive. I think he might stuff some takedowns early. I think he's trained. He knows I'm coming to wrestle. You know, obviously I'm gonna strike, but he knows I'm coming to wrestle. I'm trying to put a pace on him, and his game plan, I'm sure, is stuff the takedowns and beat his ass on the feet. So I'm sure he'll have some decent takedown defense, you know. But I think as the fight goes on, just like the Dolce fight, it gets much easier for me. I think I could definitely find a finish late second, early third. Just when I start putting that pace on him, the up down of the wrestling, the striking after he has to worry about the wrestling. I just think it'll be too much. It'll be a little overwhelming. I think I'll find a third round finish, whether that's TKO, submission. I'm not sure, but I think I'll finish him in the third.
I'm writing all of this down.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Hey, man,
I get it right from the horse's mouth. We gotta listen, right?
I gotta do this sick brag because the next day I woke up, you were following me and my post. I was going nuts. I'm like, Brundage by fucking submission. And then you grabbed it and I'm like, knew it all along. He had him right where he wanted him the whole time.
Submitted a judo
hopefully it's not
as
tense as that one, but
well, we're rooting for you, man. We are 100% rooting for you. Even our other guy Brady, who may have bet the other way, he's gonna.
It's all right, man.
He's gonna regret it. He's gonna regret it. Sorry, Brady. Let you know.
It's like I told you, bro. I told you the other day, I get it, man. I get people betting him. I get people seeing my performances and being like, well, I don't know. It's not that great. But I'm on the other end. Man, I was able to find first round finishes in fights where I didn't look great. Imagine in a fight when I put it together and look great, it's going to be something special. So, hopefully that happens Saturday.
Dude, we're pumped, man. We are pumped. So
wrestling is always the best base for mixed martial arts because you get to decide whether the fight takes place standing or on the ground, and that is a huge power to have in this game.
Who just commented? Just think Cody is about to have a win over a future 2-division champ.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right. Hey,
that's fucking funny, bro.
People with the highest aspirations, Cody. That way, if you get that win, man, you leapfrog them and you're on your way up, brother.
Cody, you want to answer this one just before we let you go? Because everybody else was writing, "Are you going to shoot?" Including our friend John Stargarian on.
I told him first 10, right?
Right. So you answered. So I don't know if you want to field this one from one of our wacky...
marijuana question. I don't think that it depends on where you're at now. I know in Vegas that's not a thing. I think it's stupid. Personally, it does no effect. It's not a performance enhancer. I don't smoke weed. It's not my preference to do that, but it doesn't make any sense to me that people are punished for that, lose their win bonus, lose potentially their performance bonus. I've had people that I'm friends with who got signed on 48 hours notice, got a $50,000 bonus off a great fight, and then they tried to take it from them because they popped for marijuana. So I think it's the stupidest shit in the world. I don't really understand it. Like I said, it has no enhancement of your performance, so I don't understand why people care. Like I said, it's not my drug of choice. It's not what I do, but if you do partake, I don't think you should be punished for it.
Right.
Do we have any other questions for Cody here? He's given us a half an hour of his time, man, and we really appreciate you. Are we? Yeah. So it looks like we're good, man. So Cody,
we have funny chatters here, just so you know.
I just saw this. I'm going to look at it.
Yeah, why don't you tell them where they can find you, how they can follow you on Twitter, and and anything you want to leave our audience with today.
Oh yeah, you can follow me at Cody_Brundage_. Twitter is Cody Brundage 185. Just kind of keep up with what I got going on. I just want to shout out my team, my coaches. I feel super lucky to be there. I always say I'm super spoiled. They go above and beyond to help me out, and that's kind of the culture there. It really is it really truly is a family. Coach Mark, I feel like I've been to a lot of gyms, and if you want privates or things like that, it's going to cost you. And Coach charges me nothing to give me 3-4 privates a week and just gives me his time. And all he wants is for me to be great. So always take the opportunity to shout them out and let them know I appreciate them. And hopefully we get it done Saturday. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Dude, we appreciate you making the time for us 72 hours before you're fighting, man. So best of luck on Saturday. Thanks for coming on the MMA Engine with us, and War Cody Brundage.
Thanks,
I'll be the loud guy screaming on Twitter again, man.
Hell yeah, let's ride.
Thanks again, man.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, Cody. Have a good one, man.
You too.
All right. And that's it. That's it, you guys. Absolutely. That was so cool to be able to talk to Cody about his UFC experience, and we really appreciate him coming on. Lou, tell them where they can find you, brother.
Like, what does it matter where they can find me? Like, who am I? Lou Betya at Twitter. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little speechless. I'm mind blown, dude. That's so cool that he came on and like talked to us.
Yeah, and
there you go, guys.
yeah.
I'm speechless.
Absolutely, man. Me too. You can find me at MMA Weezy on Twitter. You can find me right here on the MMA Engine. You can find me on Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel. You can find me on Pub Sports Radio. I'm going to be going with Brady tomorrow, Lou Betya, 7:15 Central Time for Probability right here on the MMA Engine channel. Thank you all for showing up and supporting the channel, listening to what Cody had to say, listening to us interview him. And we will catch you another time with a much worse Balls Deep breakdown where we don't have an actual fighter and it's just me yapping at you with a bunch of stats on the page. But hey, you know, you got to peak sometimes and you can't always stay at your best. So thanks, guys, for coming out today.
What if I dress, since I'm the same age as him, what if I dress like a Olynyk?
Like you dress like a what?
Alexei Olynyk. And then you interview me for like, I'd be like, because I think I could answer all the strategy questions. Be like, well, I'm going to choke him. Like, I'm just going to get an Ezekiel choke. I don't know if I can do the accent, but I'm definitely as old as he is.
Yeah, it's either the Ezekiel choke or the scarf hold. Man, that scarf hold is absolutely vicious.
We got to start.
Let's get Jared Van Dera next, man. That would be a wild one. That guy would be a very interesting interview for sure, man.
This Brady guy is out of control.
Yes, he is. All right, you guys, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. I am just going to go have some dinner right now and just like absolutely revel in the fact that I got to interview Cody Brundage here on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. Take care. You guys, have a great night. God bless each and every one of you. And we will catch you real soon right back here on the MMA Engine.